Well, the terror attack that claimed the lives of 6 migrant workers and 1 medico in Ganderbal has shocked the conscience of the nation. This attack comes mere 2 days after the bullet-ridden body of a migrant worker was found lying in the open in Wandana Malhora in Shopian. But that's not all. A week prior to that as well, an army jawan was abducted, tortured and killed by terrorists in Kokarnak. These are just 3 of the many terror attacks that have rocked Jammu and Kashmir this past year. To put things into perspective, up until now, 23 armed police forces personnel have been martyred, 26 civilians have lost their lives. Thus, there is no doubt that even as J&K is thriving post-abrogation of Article 370, security concerns still persist. The primary issue, security-wise, is that of infiltrators and OGWs. We do know that Pakistan is practically bankrupt. It's a broken polity that uses proxies to target India. So how is it managing to sponsor these attacks continuously? Joining us live at this point is Major General Rajan Kochhar, defense expert. We also have Major General Sanjay Soi, defense expert, joining us live. Lalit Ambardar, Kashmiri activist, is live with us. Joyita Basu, editor of the Sunday Guardian, also is with us live. Joyita, what do you make of these latest incidents that have rocked Jammu and Kashmir? In the latest, of course, civilians being targeted under now the new administration.
Well, I guess this was to an extent, although sad it is, was expected. These terrorists, Pakistan is trying to send a message that we do not care whether election has taken place or not. We want terror. We are going to bring terror back to the valley, because if you look at the pattern that was going on for the last few years under the Lieutenant Governor's rule, was that the terrorists, they had shifted focus from the valley to the Jammu region. So, what they are now that there is a civilian government, now that there is an actual government in place, because the state will no longer be under Lieutenant Governor's rule. So, what they are trying to do is they are trying to go back to a pre-2019 situation. The kind of normalization, quote unquote normalization, the kind of mainstreaming of Kashmir that we have witnessed, they are trying to reverse that process altogether. So, it all depends on which way the army. So, army, it seems like to a large extent they have been able to control the Jammu, the terror attacks, because touch wood, thank God we have not been hearing too many, but again this is spurt in the in Kashmir. So, I think the security establishment will have to be very, very careful, and even for the civilian government, the government that is coming into, but the elected government of Omar Abdullah, it should not be seen to be in any way giving any currency to the terrorists, because the kind of normalcy that the valley has seen, the whole intention of the terrorists is to destroy that. Industry is coming in, industry to a small scale maybe, but then the investment is coming in, the whole process will be disrupted. So, this is a very, very crucial stage.
Okay. Let me in fact quickly also draw in Major General Kochhar now. Major General Kochhar, the polls may have been peaceful, but such incidents happening immediately after, what do you make of it?
Uday, thank you for inviting me to the show. It's very important here to understand, because there is a pattern, and whenever a new government takes on, if you remember, when Prime Minister Modi won the elections, and within days we had a major terror attack in Jammu area, Riyasi and other areas, and it followed up like anything. And the Indian Army was forced to redeploy, was forced to reassess, and all those domination of the areas was carried out. Almost 3,000 troops were actually moved, and 500 special forces at that point of time. And at that point of time also Lashkar-e-Toiba had claimed responsibility, and the resistance front, who is claiming responsibility now, is an offshoot of Lashkar-e-Toiba only. So, what we presume is, because the new government has just taken over, so it is a matter of, again, timing. They feel that they will be able to pressurize the new government and create a feeling of instability. And especially when you are targeting people who are absolutely helpless, like in your laborers, earlier it was pilgrims. It shows how coward these terrorists are and what kind of targets are they picking, because now it has become very difficult to target the security forces, especially in South Kashmir, because our grid and our surveillance and our intelligence is very strong in those areas. So they are picking out the soft targets now. And especially, I would like to highlight here, these workers were working on a very strategic tunnel. If you see this tunnel, it builds up our connectivity to Ladakh. And especially, we have 6 months of winter stocking because the roads close for 6 months. It is a mountainous and a snowy area. So this tunnel is a very vital link, and it is a part of the drive of the government to build up infrastructure in the border areas. So it is very difficult now. See what happens in these incidents, and it is very, very apparent that there is some inside support which these terrorists are getting. And we have been time and again trying to discuss on your program, on your channel, that how do we bring an end to this kind of internal support, these kind of jechans we have within this within the country. It is very important to have certain streamlining of our existing laws, because you see right now you can arrest a man and he will be out on bail, or the course will go on, or the case will go on for years. So there is no deterrence to the people who are indulging this kind of act. So I think the government will have to rethink on these lines, how to have a deterrence, and the security forces have to be all the time alert now, because we not only have to protect our military convoys which are going to move along these areas and which are vulnerable, because you see most of these convoys are traveling from populated areas, so within the populated areas, and in jungle areas also, mountain areas also. So we have a drill for that. But to give a protection to each and every construction activity in Jammu Kashmir, Uday, I don't think it would be practical, and it is possible also. So the ultimate deduction is that we need to shore up our intelligence. We need to bring up our intelligence, especially the human intelligence. We need to bring up our human intelligence to that level that we are forewarned. Because as you know, forewarned is forearmed. So in case we are able to have a better intelligence network, and we are able to identify these Jechans who are present in this vicinity
Yes.
of these areas and who are helping the terrorists, I think it
Right.
should be done.
Okay, Major General Sohi, let me quickly draw you in here. Do you see a pattern to these incidents, given the fact that they happened so soon after the elections? What's the intention of these terrorists? What's the intention of Pakistan? And how does India guard against this, this renewed push for terror from our border?
Absolutely. In fact, I would say that there was a panic, and they rattled. Pakistan and terrorists were rattled. The way peace had come to the valley and the way elections were conducted peacefully. Whichever party has won, it doesn't matter. But this was the win of democracy. This was the win of people, and people wanted peace. And now the unfortunate part is that they are now targeting the poor laborers who have come all the way from Bihar, MP, and all over the places and working 24/7. They're sweating it out for survival of their family, and they're working out there for the development of people of Kashmir. They're making tunnels, they're making roads. The aim of the militants aim of these terrorists is to create a fear psychosis, to show to the people that things are not all right as the government claims to be. However, I know that just two incidents have taken place, and Farooq Abdullah's statement is very, very positive. I was happy to see that he has mentioned of the Kashmir will never be Pakistan, I'm sure, because Pakistan is hell and Kashmir is heaven. And why should a heaven become a hell? So, and this is the kind of thing, the killing of laborers, the poor laborers, is not Kashmirian. This is some heartless terrorists who have no heart and who have no, I mean, there is not a bravery. Sajjad Gul is talking from Pakistan. I think the only way which you have said, what is the way ahead? Only way ahead is that the terrorists must feel, terrorists must feel terrorized. And that we have to go after these guys. The Sajjad Gul should feel scared. He should be hiding in some tunnel. And the perpetrators of these terror activities need to be taught that it will be expensive for you. We've been talking of this, but we did couple of actions. However, the economic boycott is not the answer.
Okay.
We need to do something bigger than that. Uday.
Lalit Ambarda, how do we reduce these incidents? What should be our strategy now? And do you also see a pattern behind these incidents, which of course are happening so soon after the elections and the new government's takeover?
I don't exactly, with due regards to everybody, I don't agree with the understanding we have of what we have on hand in Kashmir. It's Kashmir Jihad. It's a full-blown pan-Islamism inspired jihad, which is expansionist and terrorism infested. And we're talking about some lull that takes place. You must understand, after 5th August 2019, which was momentous day, because that was a day when you neutered that obnoxious piece of constitutional arrangement, Article 370 and 35A, which enabled that Islamic ecosystem to flourish in Kashmir. You had a mini Pakistan flourishing in Kashmir, which led to Kashmir Jihad, and then the first victim having been Kashmiri Hindus, because they suffered genocide. So what at this stage, when you say they are rattled, Pakistanis are rattled, I don't think so, because you had a lull. It is a strategic lull, because the security grid in Kashmir is so tight, it's very difficult to breach, and which is not sustainable perpetually. Let me say add to that. But whenever they succeed in breaching it, they do it. They started this target killing started with the target of Kashmiri Hindus. They are Rahul Bhatt, then there was this Mrs. Kaur, then there was this Mahesh Rahul Pandita. All these people were killed about 2-3 years ago. Now they are doing it now because they have finally been able to breach. They have not given up. They are not Kashmir Jihad's life. So what I say, I want everybody to understand, jihad conflicts globally have never ever been vanquished. Nowhere. They only can contain. It is a military problem. It has to be tackled militarily. It's not the question of elections having to take place. And you should remember, the elections, pre-election campaigning has only added fuel to the fire, because the kind of toxic campaigning, such that competitive Islamic campaigning that took place, like national conference, talking about now 100, that was actually xenophobic against outsiders. That is what is happening now. I'm not surprised they're targeting so-called outsiders, because the mainstream political parties, Kashmir-based Islamist parties, they were inciting the locals, seeking votes, that now 140 crore Indians are now the owners of Kashmir. That is what Omar Abdullah campaigned for. Farooq Abdullah has been repeatedly saying, in सबका जनाजा निकल जाएगा जो बीजेपी के साथ खड़े थे. When you say बीजेपी के साथ खड़े थे, what they mean is whoever is standing for Indian nationalism. So even Rahul Gandhi, want to be prime minister, he wants to be the prime minister of India. He incited locals against the one section of a society of the country against another section of the society in the same country, saying that outsiders are stealing your jobs. So that has added fuel to the fire. There's no doubt about it. But I think we have walked into a trap. Kashmir Jihad is there. We have to understand it. You will not be able to finish it. You will not be able to vanquish it unless there are internal reforms within Islam itself. That I see a ray of hope in Prince Salman in Saudi Arabia. I hope he succeeds.
Okay, let's get in Joyita Basu once again. Joyita, what now needs to be the zero terror plan for J&K? Obviously, a lot of changes have happened post Article 370 and 35A, but security issues still persist. How do we eliminate terror completely in Jammu and Kashmir?
Well, I think that's next to impossible to say. As long as you have got Pakistan as your neighbor and a malign neighbor, and the kind of funding and money that they have been pumping in, of course, it's a bankrupt country even then. We cannot, I don't think at this stage we can aspire to have a zero terror situation, but yes, what we can have is you see, the situation, even if we can go back to the way the situation was maybe pre the election in Jammu and Kashmir, in particularly in the valley, I think that should normalize the situation to a large extent. And let us also face it, the target of the terrorists primarily are these outside workers, basically to ensure that Kashmir in particular does not see any development. So, they will have to increase security. There has to be in terms of combing the forests and trying to neutralize the network, and of course, you have to bring development to the ground. Unless and until there is development, because you see a lot of the support that that comes to terror, it comes from the local people. If you remember all those terror attacks that happened in Jammu region just after the election results came out, Lok Sabha election results in June came out, many of the terrorists sadly enough were getting support from some of the local population. So, the aim is that it should not be allowed to cross the threshold which it had earlier. So, for that I think the administration will have to work hand in hand with the security apparatus, with the lieutenant governor, with the center. So, you see, I mean, it just cannot be that you can treat Kashmir as Jammu and Kashmir as another state or union territory, that it is totally an abnormal situation. To a large extent, peace had prevailed. There was so much, I mean, remember what happened in G20, there was such influx of tourists and all. So, all that has to be retained. For that, the lesson must also be given to the local population. The message that needs to be given is that, number one, if you try to disrupt all that, if you try to help in disrupting all that, then it is your lives that will be disrupted, because come what may, Kashmir is not getting independence from India, Kashmir is not going to be a different country. I mean, the thing is, you see, and anyway the support, say for example, forces like the Hurriyat and all, it is gone, because Hurriyat and all, they have vanished. That situation they should not allow to revive. So, they will have to be absolutely hands on.
Major Kocha, what should be the action plan as we attempt to bring terror down, bring it to an absolute negligible state?
If we are very clear that Kashmir does not get solved through a military option. So, there are so many issues in the Kashmir. I have had 3 tenures there, and I have interacted with a lot of locals during my tenures. The problem of Kashmir cannot be resolved through military means. The first aspect and the first most important aspect is there is some amount of radicalization happening, and we are all aware of this radicalization which is taking place in the families. I have even spoken to a lot of Kashmiris who have brought out this aspect. So, there has to be an outreach. The government is making efforts, like if you compare what the situation was in Jammu and Kashmir 5 years back and what the situation is now, there has been a drastic improvement. You have to start improving the ecosystem of this area. You have to start creating employment for people. You have to start creating a good educational avenues available for the youth of Kashmir to study there, not to migrate or not to get influenced by these jihadis and all these elements. It's a long process. It cannot happen overnight. But I'm glad this process has started. The second important aspect, you see, we can't choose our neighbors, so there is no point in harping all the time, Pakistan, 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 because Pakistan is not going to change. The situation from Pakistan, whether Pakistan is economy bankrupt or not, Pakistan survives on the Kashmir agenda. The Pakistan Army's existence is based on keeping alive the Kashmir issue, otherwise the Pakistan Army loses the relevance. So, let's not start looking at Pakistan, let us start looking at the thing we can change, because We can't change Pakistan. So it is futile in wasting our energies in trying to focus there. Our focus has to be internally. Our focus has to be within the people of Jammu and Kashmir. We have to create an ecosystem for them in which they start believing in us, and all that has happened. See, we are aware of all this Islamic fundamentalism. All the political parties have taken advantage of the situation. There was so much of corruption, less of development. We have to bring about these changes in Jammu and Kashmir. The government now, Farooq Abdullah and Omar Abdullah, they cannot govern Kashmir the way they were governing earlier. There has to be a change in mindset. There has to be a change in the system. There has to be a change in the process. There has to be more involvement of people into development activities and work. And I'm sure that I'm not a pessimistic. You see, we can bring about a change in the valley. We will need time. We will need to have a bit of patience. But I'm sure that it will happen. And lastly, I would like to reiterate that Kashmir does not have a military solution. It has a political solution, and I'm sure it will happen one day.
All right. Major General Sohi, let me quickly come across to you on your action plan, and that will be the last word on where you see things, of course, going, and what you believe our security apparatuses, priorities should be now in the next few days in particular.
In fact, I would say that I would add on to what General Kochhar has said and absolutely endorse to some point that it has to be joint effort, both political, bureaucratic and army. And of course, it has to be both proactive and defensive. On one hand, we got to create a secure environment there. And on the other hand, we got to make it expensive for the perpetrators, which I mentioned earlier, for the Pakistan, that if you mess with it, if you mess here, then it will be expensive for you. That is one point. Second thing, I was there last month in Kashmir. In fact, I was in July also, last month also had gone. In fact, I find that what Mr. Lalit had mentioned, I mean, undercurrents are there. It cannot happen, say, in 2 years, 3 years, when the right from 47, some mindset has been made and a poison has been created in the minds of the people. But the people are feeling the change. They are finding it different. They are finding life better. They find that the schools are opening. They find that children are doing better, good. They are going to getting job. The number of tourists, about 1 crore 80 lakhs plus tourists had gone. They created a lot of employment, a lot of factory, a lot of handicrafts were sold. Everybody was busy making money. So they are seeing money. They are seeing the peace. They are seeing the aman. So things are gradually changing. The next generation is getting changed. It will take some time. Of course, I agree with General Kochhar that it will take some time. It cannot happen overnight. But yes, we are moving in the positive direction. And investment, the way it should come, it has not come as yet. In fact, more investment need to come in to create jobs over there. I would say that why not public sector units are setting up plants there? It is not happening. That is where probably the point is. We need to do the hand holding. Some company, real estate company, and somebody has opened mall, somebody has spent money from Dubai, but that is not enough. We need to do more, and more money has to pump in, create jobs for the youth so that their mind get distracted from terrorism. And we got to remain proactive as well as defensive. Both actions have to go hand in hand. And of course, the intelligence need to be ramped up further so that these kinds of actions, isolated actions, cannot take place, because you cannot protect each and every laborer camp. It cannot happen that way. Ultimately, the awam has to understand, the people have to understand that things are happening good for them, and they are understanding. And gradually, that is where probably we are getting, I have had 7 tenures, we are getting better intelligence than what we were getting earlier, and we are getting much more successes.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.